Okay, so I've got a hot date tonight. It is mine and my husband's 7th year wedding anniversary. Can you believe it? 3 kids down. Today I wanted to share with you guys my thoughts on the Light Clean Foundation. This is in the shade 33NL Neutral Light. And I've also got the Cherry Velvet Matte Translucent Setting Powder, Crystal Primer Powered Up Illuminating and Perfecting Primer, and the Cherry Matte Setting Spray. So if you guys have noticed, you have noticed, of course, there is no concealer. I chose not to go with it because I had heard other people's reviews on it. They didn't really like it. It wasn't great coverage. And then when I swatched it in Ulta, it was very thick. And it's $13, so I was kind of like, I'll stick with my Too Faced Born This Way Multi-Sculpting Concealer. I'm just a huge fan of that. So I just stuck with the primer, the foundation, the setting powder, and the setting spray. If you're new to my channel, please like and subscribe. I try and get videos up as often as I can. So if you guys are interested, please just keep on watching. So I'm going to start with the primer. It's not a huge amount of product. Like, how much is in here? 1 fluid ounce, 29 mils. So it's not a huge amount, but I'm sure you don't need a lot anyway. So I'm gonna put a little bit on my hand. It is very, very runny. So if you guys can see that. It's got a slight kind of glitter to it, but it's not a chunky glitter. It's quite a fine glitter. I'm just gonna start by just kind of going to town. Oh, smells really good too. It almost smells like the Too Faced Hangover Primer. It's got kind of like a coconut scent to it. Anything coconut, we're friends. So I kind of like that this is illuminating and perfecting. That's the claims on it anyways. Because now that I'm in my 30s, I like a bit of illumination. And I've also got some fine lines on my forehead. And larger pores around my nose. So if you guys can see, it gives me a bit of a shine, which I ain't mad about, quite like. Alright, let's see. Yeah, it's got a bit of tack to it, so it is quite sticky, which is good. You want it to be quite tacky because that's what's going to hold your makeup down. I just generally get more of an oily T-zone, and that's really where the makeup will start to break away the fastest. I don't like a full heavy face of makeup. I like something that's really going to cover up my problem areas. I've got a couple of pimples and things like that, but I do prefer something that is just a little bit lighter and more skin protecting, I suppose. This doesn't have an SPF or anything in it, but my preference would be like a BB cream. Next I'm going to go in with the Light Clean Foundation. It's meant to be oil-free, anti-shine and satin finish, so not a matte and not a dewy finish. I love the packaging to this. This has got 0.90 fluid ounces, 28 mils, but the packaging is very luxurious. I think it retails for $16, which isn't bad. It's got a glass frosted casing here, and then a frosted kind of brassy cap to it. It's also got a pump, which I think is great. A pump is always very handy when you've got a foundation. Okay, I'm gonna pour a little bit. Okay, it's got a good consistency to it. It's not too thick and it's not too runny. Yeah, it's almost got like kind of a watery kind of undertone to it. Yeah, and the finish does say neutral light, but it's almost quite orangey, reddy tone, which isn't ideal, but we're just gonna roll with it. Using a beauty blender. So one thing I noticed about this the first time was that you have to be rather quick when blending it, because it's not that it dries quickly, it's just that it loses its slip quite easily. And the best way to do that, apply it, is with a damp sponge. I do feel myself tugging a little bit more than usual than I would with like a BB cream or something lighter. It is pretty full coverage. It's done a really good job at like covering up my imperfections. Just gonna run it down my neck here. Color isn't too bad. A 34 neutral and a 33 neutral. I'm glad that I went with the lighter one because my skin is quite fair even in the summertime. So I'm just gonna go over again and we can see how buildable it is. It's pretty buildable. In my mind, anything that isn't a BB cream just gets quite cakey. definitely a satin finish. It's definitely kind of in between a dewy and a matte. I feel like it takes a bit of effort to blend it. I'm pressing down quite hard and I think it's just, I don't know, like it's not terrible. I just feel like I'm pulling more than usual. Let's zoom in and have a look. I wouldn't recommend using a brush with this. I think the best way to get it blended around is with a sponge. I'm gonna go off camera, put my concealer on, and then I'll be back. Okay, I'm looking a bit ghostly because I just put my concealer on. I use the Born This Way Multi-Sculpting Concealer. I'm addicted to this stuff. I use it in the shade Snow. So I just wanted to point out that as I've kind of let the makeup sit, my little problem area right here, this is actually a really good day to do like a foundation review. My little problem area here kind of is peeking through a little bit more. So it didn't really cover it, but I'm okay with that because I don't mind using concealer for these little problem areas. Did do a good job at kind of covering my scarring. The finish, I'm just letting it dry a little bit and it is quite tacky, which again I don't mind. That's the point of having setting powder. This is the Cherry Velvet Matte Translucent Setting Powder. We've got 3 grams of product, 0.45 ounces. Packaging is very cute. It's got kind of like a gold rim of flowers here. I'm really loving that it's like the style of it is just very like almost tropical, but then you've got this stopper in it, and I don't know why they don't put this in all powders. I just think it's so handy. You've got like a netting in there, and as you press down the product disperses. It's very finely milled, so powder can just kind of go everywhere. I'm not one to bake. I don't like my makeup to look too heavy. I just want it to be set and last throughout the day. So all that I'm going to do is use a brush to set it under my eyes and on my face. This is the Shimmer Tulip brush, I think, by XO Beauty. If you guys are interested in seeing these products, my thoughts on them, I've got a video dedicated to XO Beauty brushes because I have a lot of them and I'm a huge fan. So you guys can see that it's kind of flying up everywhere, which again doesn't bother me. I personally prefer like quite a finely milled powder. And it smells. It doesn't smell bad. I did watch another girl's review and she was really disturbed by the smell. The smell doesn't bother me. I kind of like scented products if it's a pleasant smell. It actually smells pretty good. Like, I don't mind the smell at all. If you guys can see there, it's got quite a matte finish to it. I quite like it. It's really fine, which is my preference to a powder. For me, the deal with a setting powder is how well it lasts throughout the day, because I do have some problem areas that I like to make sure are set and they're not going to budge. So I'm also going to use the powder in like my more problem areas. So just kind of press it in with my brush, not swipe or swirl, just kind of press, give it a chance just to get into the product. A little bit on my oh Nelly, yeah, this is really fine. Wow. Ah, that's what it smells like. Okay, it smells like fizzy tablets. I don't know if you guys remember them in New Zealand. You get like a little kind of candy and it's got like you get like different flavors of it, and I think it's like a fizzy tablet, but that's what it smells like. I love the netting. You almost do need it with how fine this powder is. So let's take a look, see how it's done. It sets the product really nice. It's got such a smoothness to it when it's set down. So I ain't mad at that. I love to just go in with spray. Okay, I just spray the heck out of any powders on my face. This is the Cherry Matte Setting Powder. It's got cherry and raspberry leaf and hyaluronic acid in it, so it is good for your skin. Even though I don't think you're meant to be using hyaluronic acid when you're pregnant. Whoops. People will take notice of that. There's so many do's and don'ts when you're pregnant, and this is my 3rd baby. I've had really good pregnancy, so I'm not as careful with skincare and things. But this is 100% vegan, cruelty free, and it's got 2 fluid ounces, 59 mils. So it's not a huge bottle. My preference of setting spray is the Flower Seal the Deal Hydrating Setting Spray Dewy Finish, and this has got 3.4 fluid ounces. This retails for $10 and this is $10. So you are getting a lot more in this product. This is my go-to, I love it. And the spray in that is also phenomenal. There's something about the pump that they have just nailed. So I'm going to use this just to set down my powder. Oh, it's got quite a heavy mist on it. Got quite a nice scent. It's got that same kind of cherry scent as the finishing powder does. You kind of have to protect your hair a little bit because it does go everywhere, whereas the Dewy Mist, the Dewy Finish Flower Setting Spray, they've just nailed the spray so that not too much it comes out and it just feels really nice to use. So I'm just going to let that sit and then we can have a look, see what it looks like. Fan down girl. Okay, so as you guys can see, it has really settled the powders down, which I'm all about. I don't like having a lot of like cakiness and heaviness to my face. I like to just spray as much as I can, really over every layer of powder. I use the Chi Chi BB cream and I really love it because the consistency of it is so thin and creamy. This really does feel like a foundation. It looks like a foundation. It's not terrible, it's just like as you get older, foundation really sinks into your skins. It just feels a bit heavier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the rest of my makeup. I'll come back at the end of the day and we can have a look how it's worn, how it sits. Right now it is, let me check the time, 3:54, so it's almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm going out, so I'll be out quite late tonight, so we'll see how it sits. Alright guys, so it is 7:15, so when did I put this makeup on? Maybe around 4? So let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7, only 3 hours. It hasn't been on very long, but why don't we have a look, see what's going on with this. Looks okay, it hasn't separated too much. It feels pretty good, like it's got a little bit of tackiness to it, so I don't know if like the setting powder is quite setting as well as I wanted it to. Underneath here I can feel my oils coming through around my nose a little bit, so I might need to touch up just a little bit. I'm going to the movies and then I will pop back in after everything. The sun's just going down now, so I'll pop back in when it is dark. Right, see you guys. We are back and we're checking in on the makeup. It is about 10:45, so everything's been on for almost 7 hours. I feel like it's held up pretty well. If anything, it's just doing what really all my makeup does. Just it's starting to just get a little bit oily through like the normal areas that it does. So if you guys can see here, just like on my chin and around my nose. So, but that's kind of normal. I don't really expect anything else. So I feel like the powder held up well. The foundation hasn't really separated, and the setting spray, I was going to say powder, the setting spray has worked well and the primer has worked well. So I feel like the 4 of them as a team worked really well. You can find them in Ulta and then also on their website, Pacifica's website. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up, like, subscribe, and we'll see you in my next video. Doodle pip!